I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the process of selling the idea a little bit more and some of the first conversations and how that evolved into greater adoption. Because I feel like, especially for huge internal tools for a company at the scale of Amazon, that adoption curve seems like it could be a long process. And seems like a lot of stakeholders and a lot of hurdles and a lot of opinions that you have to navigate throughout that whole process. So can you tell us a little bit more about the whole selling and pitching the idea and building buy-in for the Amazon Apollo solution? What was that like?
I think one key thing we did was to not make it dependent on broad adoption. So one team could use Apollo and it didn't force other teams to. I think possibly due to sort of, social networks and network effects, people often model software these days as, oh, it gets better the more people who use it. But that also means that your initial few customers who are going to be the people who are telling other people how awesome it is don't get the full experience. So Apollo worked even if it was just a single team. And we went after not the most shiny team politically. That would have been going after the website. And we could have had the attitude of we got to get the website on board, we'll never be successful. Instead, we went after the team that was completely ignored, the team that was struggling, the team that was desperate for someone to help them. I think there was also an element of Amazon culture that helped us. First of all, you could not mandate anything, so we never even had the option of saying, "Oh, we'll just get Rick Dalzell to go tell everyone to do it." That was never an option. But also, no one had time. So it's I there were not this. Also, this wasn't like that cool a problem. How many people really want to write a piece of software that pushes software? So we didn't. It's not like we had a ton of competition, and so it wasn't that cool a problem, and no one had time to be writing other solutions. This was largely an area that just needed to kind of work. And then the other thing is we put huge time into it. I mean, I did nothing for months but give, and I traveled to. I mean, this we everyone was in Seattle back then. But I traveled to every single building we had. I gave presentations. I would do one-on-ones. I would do whatever was necessary and I tuned my pitch to the audience. So rather than talking about why I thought Apollo was good, I talked about what they would get out of Apollo. So as a dev, you didn't care about, your manager being able to trace why you had an outage, but you really cared about getting your code pushed. I mean, this was before, you know, all of this agile stuff was quite as cool. We didn't have DevOps wasn't even a word. The first time I encountered it, it was a friend saying, "Hey, this DevOps thing, I think that's what you were doing at Amazon." Like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that is what we were doing." So the idea of a dev being able to control their own future and push their code, that was so exciting. And then, of course, like everyone else panics, and so you point out, "Oh, but it's okay because you can roll it back with a push of a button too." And, it's I gather that Apollo has huge integrations and stuff internally. We didn't try to build all that on day one. We focused on a problem that needed to be solved, and we didn't spend energy building frameworks or integrations, or the one thing we did was make the transport swappable so that we could plausibly say that if someone wanted to build a BitTorrent client, they could. But the default was using SSH and SCP. Um, so yeah, we didn't overbuild, and we sold focused on the people, focused on what value they would get out of it. There's an element of marketing that I think tech folks can easily fall into. I have the superior technical solution, therefore people should use it. And this was let me go solve a problem for you and show you how I'm solving your problem.
A big lesson I hear from this is that being egoless and also being the owner of the company, like you're really doing the right thing, not try to get more credit, like get the most important team on board and not try to implement everything. And I think you just focus on solving the problem and helping your early customers to be successful. So I think that mindset has a lot to do with the result. That this is a still ongoing project. It's a really important tool, and it's very successful initiative.
We never dreamed it would be like this. We were optimistic. We picked the name Apollo. We had a little contest in the team for picking the name, and we wanted to pick one that we thought that people could pronounce even if they weren't native English speakers. that would be recognizable, that wouldn't conflict with any internal names. It turns out Apollo is a hard thing to spell, which we did not anticipate. People got confused about how many P's and how many L's. But it did create a fun additional mascot, which was that it is a slightly bastardized Spanish for to the chicken, apoyo. Um, Technically, it should be al pollo, but so